Thank you, Phyllis. Good morning, Unity of Bloomington. So happy to see you here today. Welcome. My name is Mary Ellen May. I'll be your service leader, and thanks to all of you joining us online, wherever, whenever you are. We feel your presence. Thank you for being here. Let's all take a moment just to check in and arrive. Take a deep breath. Become present. Thank you. Today, we'll hear from our final ministerial candidate. So the service will follow the process we've used the last couple of weeks. We'll have a shortened service followed by an interview with the Reverend Dr. Ruth Miller, who's joining us via Zoom from Oregon. So now let's sing our welcome song. I invite you to sit or stand, whatever's comfortable, and sing together, Everything I Need to Know. Be seated. We're going to jump right in today. It's my great delight to introduce our speaker. The Reverend Dr. Ruth Miller integrates new understandings of culture and consciousness in a way that the rest of us can understand. Working as a futurist and organizational and community development consultant, she uses her degrees in anthropology, environmental studies, cybernetics, and systems science to teach in several colleges and universities around the Pacific Northwest. Now in her second career, Reverend Miller serves as an ordained New Thought minister in Unitarian, Science of Mind, and Unity churches around Oregon. Dr. Miller has written over 24 books on the history and power of applied metaphysics and dozens of reports on future impacts of present actions. She also manages several websites and a YouTube channel to provide broader access to her books, interviews, classes, and lectures. In addition, she hosts a regular radio program on the science of consciousness called Noetic Moments. Please join me in welcoming the Reverend Dr. Ruth Miller.
Oh my, such an honor to be with such a wonderfully organized group of people. Yes. We have agreed to come together to talk about infinite wisdom and how we can achieve and experience that. And wisdom is one of those words that has a very, very broad meaning, and almost everyone who defines it a little bit differently. So I'd like to start there, because then we all know what we're talking about. So in the realm of the ancients, if we can call the Hellenistic philosophers the ancient ones, wisdom is described in a word that is the name of a being, Sophia. Sophia, among the Greek Jewish folks, has come to be the partner of the divine in the creation of all that is. Sophia, in the mind of the ancient philosophers, was a muse, a presence who would emerge in one's life and in one's words and in one's actions as, well, as Socrates said it, as people began to be aware of how little they actually know. And that actually is continuing to emerge in our culture as we extend what was the ancient Greeks and the ancient Romans culture into European and Western culture, and now a global culture of people who have been studying and trying to understand what all this is about. So to the ancient Greeks, this presence, Sophia, emerged as one began to realize, oh, I don't have all the answers. Oh, there's more to the world than I knew. And so the philosophers would encourage people to travel and get out there and learn more and discover more and get in touch with what's going on out there, while at the same time paying attention to what's going on in here. What's going on in our hearts, in our minds, as we're having these experiences? What kinds of questions are emerging? What kinds of understandings are settling in and shifting and changing our points of view? In the ancient Chinese tradition, that Confucius, as we call him, Kung Fu Tse, would lay out based on the early Taoists, he said, by 3 methods we may know wisdom. First, by reflection, which is noblest. Second, by imitation, which is easiest. Third, by experience, which is bitterest. Yes. So the Greeks understood that, but they also knew that in order to begin to have either imitation or experience, one had to get out there and do things, and then one could begin to reflect. In our culture today, we've kind of forgotten the reflection part, and that's one of the reasons I love working with Unity folks, is because we teach and we practice going inside to find out what's really happening here, and what kind of voice, what kind of ideas, what kind of images are emerging. And I think we do that because that was Fillmore's experience. Charles Fillmore, when Myrtle began to get healed through her practice of studying and affirming all the positive healing processes in the Bible, after a lifetime of struggling with what she was told was inherited tuberculosis, she began to get well, and he began to go, ooh, I need to find out more about what that's about. And he studied everything in sight. And at the end of a year, he said, oh, wow, that's a cacophony of conflicting messages. So then he said, I think I need to go to the head. I need to go to the top. And so he spent another year, this time, going inside. He spent half an hour every day sitting in quiet with a listening awareness. Even as you are listening right now, waiting for my next word, he would sit there listening. Does God have a word for me now? And he did that for a year. And at the end of the year, he never heard a voice. But he began to realize, oh my goodness, my relationships are smoother. My health is much better. I'm getting guidance in my dreams. My work is coming together in beautiful ways. My business is flourishing. Simply the act of listening, of going inside, was sufficient to transform his life. And that's the basis for everything he ever taught after that. So, as Confucius told us, by reflection, we get a degree of wisdom that is possible only by listening. Now, how do we know that wisdom is actually our experience? We all have monkey mind, chasing around all kinds of thoughts, yeah? And meditation is not just emptying ourselves of that monkey mind. It is being in that place of readiness to discover, right? It is focusing on something to the point where those thoughts have settled down a bit. And what begins to happen as we access this state of being is just marvelous. And this is one of the ways we know whether we're operating from our intellect, our being smart, or whether we're operating from that deeper wisdom, which is everywhere present. But our monkey mind has kept us from accessing. The way we can begin to know it is actually described in the Bible. For wisdom brings peace and order. Wisdom from above brings peace and order. It fits. It feels right. It feels in alignment. My body and mind and spirit are all in alignment. That's when wisdom is in operation. And what's wonderful about it is because wisdom, being one of the qualities of the divine, brings all the other qualities with it. So we feel that peace, we feel that beauty, we feel a beginning of joy even as we're resting in the wisdom and beginning to act from that wisdom. Yes. And we see in the world around us more and more of those divine qualities, the beauty, the love, the intelligence of all beingness, the order and harmony and peace and balance that is. Yes. Wisdom is a state of being. It's not answers to our questions. Wisdom is a state of beingness that is in alignment with our source. And our source is always present in us, through us, and as us. When I'm doing my science stuff, I talk about it as the quantum field, because that field that permeates all that is what all matter and energy emerges from, and is therefore all that is. It's everywhere. It can't not be present in our furnishings, in our clothing, in our bodies, in our thoughts, in our world. Our job is simply to overcome what the culture has been telling us that we have to pay attention to. All that matter, all that energy, all that ways of acting in the world, and begin to understand, no, it's what underlies all of that that is what we are aiming for, so that we can feel those other wonderful qualities of the divine that are always present, as wisdom is always present. A lot of folks over time talked about how we can experience this state of being, going into the quiet, allowing those words to form, which are ready to be there, ready to be expressed. We could just get the intellect out of the way. Jordan Peterson, a very popular psychologist in the social media right now, says there is no relationship between smart and wise, because the arrogance of the intellect prevents us from accessing that wisdom that is here now. Thomas Jefferson used to say, wisdom is knowing what to be and do. Skill is knowing how to do it. And the Buddha himself used to say, wisdom appears from a pure and peaceful mind. To walk safely through the maze of human life, one needs the light of wisdom and the guidance of virtue. And Thomas Jefferson defined virtue as doing what wisdom calls us to do. So following the guidance, acting in alignment with what our deeper understanding, based on reflection, based on experience, allows us then to feel that alignment, the body, the mind, the spirit, and the world, all in this marvelous, marvelous state of being. The Bible deals with wisdom in many, many different ways, and most folks today who are in Bible-oriented churches believe that wisdom is doing what the Bible tells them, which Confucius would call imitation, and which those who are involved in human development, the ages and stages of becoming who and what we are becoming, would say is a good first step. If I'm imitating a wise person or a wise source, I'm beginning to get into a sense of knowing what it feels like. And then if I can reflect on that and see where the contrast has been, those of you who follow Abraham, you know, that contrast, when I felt that peace and when I didn't feel that peace, when I was relaxed and all was in alignment and all the synchronicities are happening, and when everything was weird and hitting each other, right? I can reflect on that and I can realize, oh, when it's upset, when it's not working, it's almost always from my intellect, from my smarts. It's from what I thought I knew. But when it was in alignment, it was like I got to shut down that and move with the unfolding processes that are always the divine working in my life, because that's how it works. We live and move and have our being in the one presence that is the only power. Yes. The ancients understood that. Often our translators didn't, and so the translations of ancient texts very frequently directed us in the direction of smart rather than in that direction of accepting the wisdom. So one of the more modern philosophers, Claude Lévi-Strauss, says, the wise person doesn't give the right answers, but poses the right questions, going inside and discovering what is emerging here. What is my role? What is it that will bring alignment and move me into that sense of peace and ease and grace? When I was working primarily as a futurist, one of the books that I encountered was a marvelous study done at Stanford University. And it was a series of interviews of entrepreneurs who've been successful. This is a marvelous piece of work that's actually the basis of my most recent book, the one that came out last spring, where we looked at what entrepreneurs were doing and what we found and what they found at Stanford University was the most successful entrepreneurs went with their gifts and their talents. And their gifts and their talents were in alignment, right? It was spirit, body, and mind all working together. And they said that when they were in that space, everything they did was effortless. It was easy to do it. It was easy to bring themselves to do it. And we know how that is. We all have our gifts and talents, and it's really easy to do that. We do it quickly. It's not any effort at all. The second thing that they said was that if they made their choice in alignment with what energized them, they got more done. It was energizing. It was enjoyable to do it because it was their gift, their talent, and they could do it and enjoy it. And when it was done, they were energized. They weren't drained. And we all know those times when we've tried to do something we don't do very well, or we're in a situation that isn't really ours to be in, and we come away just going, oh my goodness, I'm so tired. I don't think I can do any more. Whereas when we're doing what we really love, we can keep on going and going and going, like the Energizer Bunny, I think. So effortless, enjoyable, and energizing. When I go inside and I pay attention to those qualities, then I am moving and acting in alignment with my own inner wisdom, my own unique aspect of the infinite wisdom that is available to all of us. True wisdom steps in as we choose what is truly ours to be and do. As we accept that what we've thought we knew, we may not actually understand fully. As we allow something greater than our normal thought processes to be what we are operating from, we begin to become truly wise. And I'm looking forward to the day when I can feel that all the time. So, as we understand that wisdom is what is everywhere, because God, as wisdom, is everywhere, we can relax into the flow of it. We can allow it to express itself in and through and as us, and in and through and as everyone around us. Emma Curtis Hopkins, one of the teachers I like to work with, she says, there's no absence of this wisdom and intelligence in the universe, not even in that person who's standing over there who we have been taught to think of as less than. And Jordan Peterson tells a story of a client that he had that was very much at the bottom of all expectations. She was miserably shy. She was miserably connected to people. She was dealing with a dying aunt and a boyfriend who was making her miserable even so, and she was in and out of the state hospital. And one day she came in, and she would come in like this. She was so shy. And one day she came in, and anyone who wore a suit was the administration, and she had an idea for this hospital, and so she was telling him as her therapist, but she thought he was one of the administrators. She was telling him, I have this idea. This woman who, if you took her IQ test, might come in at 70 or 80, maybe, said, I walk my dog. I could walk my dog over to the hospital, and some of the people who live here, maybe one of them could walk with us. I think that would be good for them. Wisdom is not necessarily associated with how we measure intelligence. Wisdom is that knowing that what is truly unfolding for us is truly unfolding for all that is, because the divine can't just work for any one of us. It must work for all of us. So if it's good, as I understand good, then it's good that is expressing and affecting the whole all that is. And I have to trust that, because that's how the divine always works. Our wisdom is always present. Our understanding is the only thing we need to look for. And we look for it by allowing ourselves some quiet moments, a few in the morning, a few in the middle of the day, and a few in the evening. In the more ancient spiritual traditions, that's called prayer time. That time when we go inside and connect with the wisdom and the love and the joy that is always present. And then we act from it. And people say, aren't you wonderful? And you go, nah, that's just God working through me. For so it truly is. Thank you very much.
this moment is my only fast. Heart of my own heart, whatever befall. Love is my vision, my ruler, my all.
Let's take a long, slow, deep breath and just relax in this moment, filled with love, filled with the presence that is all that we've ever longed for and is always here now. The body relaxes and the mind is stilled in this moment, feeling this love, this wisdom, this knowing, this joy. As we observe the body breathing, we can see that the body is taking care of itself just fine. And so we allow the mind to expand beyond the body, filling this space with the beauty and the joy that is, and feeling the many, many others who have experienced this knowing. And we allow the mind to expand, our awareness to expand with this joy, with this love, with this peace, expanding into the community beyond the building, touching the hearts and minds and souls of all those who have been seeking. And they resonate with us, and we can feel this love, this peace, moving out into the world as we simply be. And we feel it expanding through the valley and across the hills and across the rivers and lakes. Every soul that has longed to feel the touch of love and wisdom resonating with us now and enjoying and peacefully engaging and harmonizing with this world of being that is the love of the one presence and power. And in our awareness, we realize we can embrace this whole fabulous, wonderful planet, our Mother the Earth, in her beautiful dance with the Father, Son, and all the other planets. Yes, we feel the love permeating all that is as we love and hold, embrace. All the source of all the stuff, the matter and the energy. And we allow our awareness to absorb the love that is everywhere. And to bring our awareness back into the body, expanded and knowing more fully what is true. All that exists everywhere is the one presence, the one power, the omnipotent good that we call God, Spirit, Source, Love. Yeah. For so it truly is. So we take a cleansing breath, bring our awareness fully into this body, in this space, in this time. And we declare with the ancients in their commitment, in the word that means, henceforth shall this be my experience. the ancient word, Amen. Thank you for being part of that with me.
As you believe, you will receive. As you believe, you will receive. As you as you believe, you will receive. As you believe, you will receive. As you
We'll now move into the interview portion of our service today. So I'd like to call the search team forward, please.
I gotta say, this is so cool. I can hear you.
I want to say that I was so relaxed after the meditation that I forgot we were doing an interview.
Must have been doing something right then.
Hi, Dr. Reverend Ruth. I don't know what to put first, Reverend, Dr. Ruth. I'll just call you Dr. Ruth.
Ruth works fine.
Okay. Thank you so much for your message this morning. It was heartfelt. I agree with Dave. I was like, oh, I gotta come back to earth here on the meditation. So thank you so much. We want to welcome you. We're glad you kind of like our little system here, where we get to see you, and then we go right in, and we have our beautiful community behind us to listen. So we're super excited that you're here this morning for the interview. I want to reintroduce everyone. I know that you might have seen us all, or some of us during the beginning this morning, but Devta on the end there. Tana, I'm Leanne, Mary Ellen, and Phyllis. So we're super glad to see you again. We haven't really seen you face to face since our meet and greet. So welcome to our beautiful church here. I want to explain I'm sorry?
It is beautiful.
Thank you. I'll just give a brief explanation of the interview format this morning. I will be posing the questions. There will be 3 specific questions at the beginning, and then there will be a 4th one, depending on what answers come out. You know, we've kind of got some direction there. And then there will be an opportunity for you to ask any questions you have of us. And then I pass the mic as it goes, as you ask questions. I'm just really the questioner. I don't have any expertise on the other. I'll pass that on. So we'll go ahead and ask you if you would open this segment up with a prayer.
I'd be honored. Thank you. So breathing ourselves into that knowing of the one, feeling the power that is the one, feeling the wisdom that is the one, allowing the Spirit as the one to move in and through us. We come together here now to discover what is the path that is the best for all beingness with Bloomington Unity and with Ruth Miller. We know that the right, fitting, most loving possibility is attempting to emerge right here and now. And we accept here, now, and always that the wisdom and the love and the power of the one that is moving in and through us now. And for this we give thanks as we go forward, knowing that it is so. And so I say again, Amen.
Thank you. Our first question this morning: spiritual leadership is like putting a puzzle together. You would be responsible for meeting the spiritual needs of the community, like providing a Sunday service, one-on-one counseling, teaching classes, administrative tasks, working with our volunteers. That's just to list a few. If you would, please tell us what would be your approach to organizing these responsibilities.
Marvelous. Administration is at the bottom. Necessary, but not by priority. I am fundamentally a teacher. My background, I'm the 5th generation of college professors. And I found that it was through Unity and the other New Thought movements that what we need in this world at this time as individuals and as a collective humanity is being taught and being expressed and being experienced. So my focus is always, how can we discover more fully who we are, and how can we live that more fully? I see that happening in a variety of ways. Sunday services is one of the ways we invite people into the teaching. It's a way for people to share and begin to go, oh yeah, that's possible. Ooh, I think I want more of that. And then classes and learning to work together in these ways is the way we deepen that. So I offer classes on a regular basis and encourage team processes that bring, quote, volunteers up to, quote, leadership, but basically are developing and empowering everybody who's participating. I see Sunday services also as a way to expand the possibilities. So my notion of the most healthy way to do Sundays is to have me be one of several speakers. I might speak 2 or 3 times in the month, but we want to bring in people from other faith traditions. We want to bring in people from other understandings of this marvelous material that we are working with on a Sunday morning. I would certainly organize, and I don't know if you could hear that I sing, but I sing, and I would love to be part of music. Love to be part of the music, and I think music is a huge, huge contribution to that opening up that happens on a Sunday. And prayer and meditation are, for me, the most important part of the day. So I hope that answers your question.
Sunday service is wonderful, but connecting with Christ consciousness is an activity that needs to be practiced more than just on Sundays. How do you recommend that we motivate and support folks to practice connecting with Christ consciousness beyond the Sunday service? I think you touched on some of these things. Just elaborate a little bit on that for this question.
All right. So classes range from, these are basic unity principles and this is why they exist, to these are the teachers who taught the Fillmores and this is what they had to say, to here are a dozen other ways we can look at this. So classes give us that intellectual framework, what Emma Curtis Hopkins calls the foundation, the understanding, what is standing under the life experience. And then, as I said, we create opportunities as we're working together to begin to put those into practice, the principles, and to see how we are healed as we release old triggers and release old ways of doing things, old patterns, you know, those things that happen over and over in our lives that we don't even understand why. And it turns out there's something way back there we can release. And the trigger is reduced and ultimately eliminated. So that happens through practice and through working together. And then as we move forward, we give each other opportunities to learn how to heal not only ourselves, but to help other people learn how to heal others. And, you know, in the Emma Curtis Hopkins works, that's the second of the 12 lessons, the 7 through 12, is we take it out into the world and we begin to work with people, we work with the environment. One of the things that I think is crucial at this time in human history is that we all wake up. We're being given so many wake-up calls. Let's actually wake up to that knowing that is what we call Christ consciousness, so that we can be that which we are called to truly be in this beautiful planet.
As you probably know, we have a pretty powerful volunteer leadership in this community at Bloomington. How do you see yourself working with this community in your particular ministry? I know you've talked a lot about, you know, how we would deepen and the volunteers would, you know, become the leaders, and just elaborate on that a little bit, coming in with a strong leadership volunteer base.
It's one of my attractions to you. I love it. For me, the minister is a facilitator for the folks who are making this thing happen. I can guide, I can offer insight, I can perhaps add a little bit of skill where maybe there's a little bit of a hole. I see my job partly as backing up and filling in when someone isn't there and you're looking for someone or they're not able to show up that day. The board, the volunteers, the leadership of any church community, to me, are the leadership, and the minister is facilitating that. Part of our job, though, as leaders, ministry or volunteer or whatever, the staff and the volunteers, is to empower others to move into leadership as we move on into other roles. So part of what I encourage is the training support of new folks into these new positions. And while I understand there's a marvelous textbook out there by Ken and Callahan called 12 Keys to an Effective Church, and I use that when I'm training ministers because it helps us to see that, yes, you're going to be in a role for several years as you develop the skills and as you become wise in that aspect of life. But then you want to move on to the next thing. We don't want to hang on to a position. We don't want anyone to be stuck in a position for life. So that is also part of my role.
You've talked about doing. How do you see that, quote unquote, doing happening?
You're marvelous.
I can't take credit for that one. Or any of these questions,
I
really.
saw the note going over there. I love that.
I try to sneak that in.
All right, so being is where most of what happens. Sharing, communicating is the next level. Action is the outcome of all of that. And so when I am serving in the position of minister or spiritual leader in any spiritual community, my fundamental job is to be that which we seek to become as much as I can, and to become more fully who we all can become. That's my primary job. My secondary job is to be able to communicate in a way that encourages others. Then the third is to make sure the actions happen, right? And my job, therefore, is to simply monitor and make sure things are happening. And if I see a hole, to either find the person that can fill that hole, or for a very short time, fill it myself while we're looking. So whatever the action is, whether it's making sure the Sunday bulletin has been printed, or making sure the lawn is mowed, or making sure the door is open on a Sunday, or for a class on Tuesday night at 7:30, that will emerge from all of the rest.
Okay, that explains how to do within our spiritual community. How about taking that doing outside into the community?
I love it.
How would you expect that to happen?
You're great. So first we be it, and who we are radiates out into the community. So if we're not together, if we're not in harmony, if we're not being that which we wish the world to become, following Gandhi's precept, right? Then we're not contributing to the community. So first job is to be that, and then from that being, from that knowing, to discover what action in the world is being called for. So the introduction said I was a futurist. I still am. I just published some articles this last couple of years in the futures world. Mostly I'm in the ministry, but I still have ties in that other world. And as futurists, we are seeing that there's action on basically 5 different aspects of life that can be taken now, that can begin to undo the damage we've done in the last 150 years and begin to bring forward into the world a culture based on the principles of unity and also of the Unitarianism, which I can talk about at another time, but they overlap a lot because we're the same theology. So those principles then are becoming the basis for an emerging culture. As we know who and what we are and radiate that, then those actions which are in alignment with an education system that supports people knowing and becoming who they can be, social systems that support people being able to be in relationship in ways that are grounded in the consciousness that we're calling Christ consciousness. The technological shifts away from more and more material emphasis to more and more spiritual and human and wise, I'll say wisdom, actions based on wisdom, etc. I just did a class yesterday that I do several times a year now called The World We Are Creating. And it looks at what has been happening in the world. In fact, we recorded it, and I can send the recording to you when it's edited if you would like. And it talks about the world that has been happening and why global climate change is happening, what the results of global climate change can be expected to be, and how humanity can thrive as we shift from the way we were doing things to the way the new culture that has been emerging for almost 40 years now, almost 50, oh my, we're almost at 60 years now, my goodness. That new culture is emerging very, very beautifully all over the world, and we're part of it, so we can help people do that.
You said earlier that the volunteerism was one of the things that drew you to us. What else is drawing you to Bloomington, Indiana?
I grew up in the Midwest. I spent my summers on a farm in Illinois and spent my school years at the University of Chicago campus. And so, Midwest feeling is normal to me. I'm always kind of aware of the difference when I'm on the East Coast or I'm in the South or even in California. I feel, I can feel the difference. And that was one thing. The second thing is I loved your video. You did a great job. I loved your video. I had this notion that my next stage in my life was going to be in a college town by a river and or lake that had a really powerful, active unity church that I could be part of. So all of those things together, plus the way you've done things. I am just absolutely delighted with the way you have done this whole process.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that answer. What experience have you had with spiritual paths outside of unity, and how has that shaped you today? So I know for you, you're going to have to go way back before you don't get into some unity stuff. Okay.
You're marvelous.
Maybe when you were born.
So, I'm going to do a little life history here. I grew up in a household with a single mom who had broken away from church and thought I should be a Unitarian, whose mother was a Methodist missionary. Both her parents were Methodist missionaries in India. And her mom, my grandmother, came back, as my aunt used to put it, more Hindu than Christian, but she continued to be a Methodist. So when I was very young, we're talking 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, we're talking reincarnation, we're talking people getting up and being healed of blindness, of lameness, that she witnessed while she was living in India. So that was kind of an interesting frame. And then from 7 to 14, I spent my summers on a farm in Illinois with Lutherans, traditional Lutherans. And I learned things like, Jesus loves me, this I know. Totally different world. We did a lot around Christmas and Easter. Those were big in my family, but that was always couched in all this other stuff. I love to sing, and I got involved with a church choir in a Baptist church during middle school, and my mother was appalled. And so when we moved to California, when I was in high school, she put me in a Presbyterian church room of the choir, which was the Presbyterian church that served Stanford University, so it was very intellectual. And I was very active in that little church, big church. We had several hundred people in the youth program. So the choir was fabulous, and because I was in choir, I actually listened to a few sermons. And one of those sermons, the minister got up there and said, if you are not doubting, you do not have sufficient faith. I was 15 when I heard that. Wow. Well, the next year, right before my 17th birthday, they had me deliver a sermon in a Presbyterian church. And okay, I'm a girl. You really want me to preach a sermon? So I did, and I did it based on Khalil Gibran's book, The Prophet, and the essay on giving. And then I went off to college. And my roommate, my second term in college, was new to the campus, and she was Catholic. And so I escorted her to the Newman Center on campus a few times to help her find where she wanted to go for Sunday mornings. And my aunt and uncle in the same town were in the anthropology department. My aunt had a degree in anthro, and my uncle was getting his PhD in art history, specializing in Native American art. And they were Jewish. He was the son of a rabbi. So I would go and spend Friday nights and Saturdays with my aunt and uncle, and then Sundays I would take my Catholic roommate to church. And one night, on Friday night, we're blessing the bread and the wine, and they say it in English instead of in Hebrew. I've been learning the Hebrew, Baruch Atah Adonai. Yeah. Yes. And then this is post-Vatican II Catholicism, and suddenly it's in English, it's not in Latin. Now, I had Latin, but I hadn't paid attention to the service prior to that, and it's the same words. Blessing the Eucharist and blessing the bread and wine, Friday night and Sunday morning. And I'm going, whoa. So I started studying comparative religions. And I was an anthropology major, funny thing. And the advanced course in comparative religions is very different from the kind of thing you get in most seminaries and colleges. And so I'm studying the Maoris, and I'm studying the people, the Sonoy, who practice dreams every day. And I'm studying all kinds of good people all over the world. And in the meantime, I had done a lot of science in high school, and I'd kind of gone, as everyone does in the sciences, gone, ooh, I'm not sure there is a God out there. I mean, there can't be someone running all of this. This is too complicated. It's not happening. So I was in that kind of agnostic stage while I'm going through all of this. And by the end of that class, I went, well, every single culture on the planet acknowledges a higher power. I guess I'm going to do that too. I'll take that as a working hypothesis. So then I ended up marrying a Catholic, and I went through the whole thing. I went through pre-Cana, I went through pre-baptism, I did all of that. They didn't count Unitarian christening, naming as baptism, so I had to get baptized again. And so then I was married to a Catholic for 15 years, and we were in the Navy, and we had 13 different addresses in 4 years. And another 7 in the next 10 years. And so, we were in Paulist churches and Franciscan churches and Dominican churches and Jesuit churches and, all of these different kinds of angles on Catholicism. And in the meantime, I still got my Jewish family, and we were going home for Hanukkah, going back to, So it just continued. And then somewhere in there, we discovered Alan Watts. And now we're getting into the Buddhism and the Hinduism. And at one point, I remember my husband hearing about Zen Catholics in Japan and going, oh, the church is finally coming around to our way of thinking. So then, for reasons I still do not understand, he suddenly stopped being Catholic. He never did explain this. And suddenly the family can't go to church. Period. We can't go to church. What? Well, we moved into a house that was next door to an Episcopal church, so I used to sneak over because I needed spiritual food. So I'd go over there during evensong usually and just be in that space. But I was working 2 jobs in 2 cities, and I had 2 kids, and finishing my doctorate. And the body gave out. Other things were going on as well. The body gave out, and so I went into retreat. And I had a 6-month prognosis with no real diagnosis and no treatment plan. One doctor was able to give me an insight to what was going on that helped a lot. And then someone put me in touch with a mind-body psychotherapist who helped a huge amount. And then someone reminded me that I had heard many, many times of people who had been healed without medical attention. So I started searching the literature everywhere. I didn't add in that I was working in a group that was one of the places the people who created the Course in Miracles sent the draft to try to figure out what to do with it. So I was familiar with the Course in Miracles in my 20s. I didn't practice it because it wasn't printed and I didn't have it, but I was familiar with it. When it got to be printed, then I used it as part of this process of finding all the ways I could to find out how people healed themselves. And one of the things I found was a book that talked about a woman who got to overcome tuberculosis through forgiveness. And wow, that was huge. So I started studying forgiveness. And in the process, started doing what I just preached about, going into the silence and listening. And there was this voice. And this voice would say, go here, go there. Or I would get in the car and it would pull me in this direction or that direction. It was amazing. And it sent me to Unity and Science of Mind churches. Not during services. I never went to a service during that period, but it would show me this brochure. The Golden Key. It would show me another brochure, Catherine Ponder's healing practices, you know. So, and a book would show up and another book would show up. So I began to immerse myself in the literature and I healed. My body got healed. I was able to go back to work and be a full-time mom again. The marriage didn't survive this process because he couldn't handle that. At one point he's going, I have the impression that in order to be married to you, I have to follow your religion. And I looked at him. I became a Catholic to marry you. Okay. And we went to our favorite Jesuit priest for counseling, and I'm hearing, you guys love each other, you can make this work. And he's hearing, we're done. Literally, we walked out of there and I'm going, all right, what's next? And he says, well, I guess that's it. We don't have anything going for us. Okay. So now I'm on my own with the kids, except they do spend a lot of time with him. We're good. We find a loving way to do this. And in fact, the kids said a couple of years later, we didn't even know you were divorced. So that felt really good. But in the meantime, I have found this process, the stuff that is the Unity and New Thought process. And I'm continuing to earn a living as a futurist, a college professor, organizational development, community development stuff. I end up rehabbing a bunch of houses, working with ministers from other traditions. And one morning, after several days of difficult time, I had a dream, and the dream was this beautiful, tall, slender woman saying, welcome to the body of Christ. I'm going, really? And then the voice said, you need to go to such and such a place. I said, wait a minute. For 8 years, you've been telling me not to go to that place, but now you want me to go to that place. Okay, I'll go there. That woman in my dream was the speaker. And she ran their ministry training program. Wow. So I became part of their ministry training program. I hope that's helpful.
Yes, thank you. Is there anything else that you would like us to know or to say about yourself that we've not covered in our questions?
Well, I hinted at it, but I didn't say it out loud. And that is, I would be your full-time called minister, but I'd only be speaking 2 or 3 times a month. Yeah. Because I really do believe you all have something to say, and you have professors and other grad students and other ministers and other traditions all over town that will have something that we need to hear as a community.
Thank you. And do you have any questions for us?
I feel like I know you pretty well. You've been marvelous, really. I think the only question that I would have is if it turned out that I came to be there with you and we made it through the next 5, 10 years, would you be okay if I hung out every now and then as a visitor?
Oh my goodness. Absolutely. Absolutely. We everyone is welcome, and you, gosh, if we had 5 or 10 years, we would just all be best friends. I'm going to pass this on for next steps. I told you when it gets specific, I pass the mic. So here we go.
Okay, Ruth. Thank you so much. I think we need to all thank her again for the message. We're going to release you when we're done right here in just a minute. And thank you so much for being here today and for being you. Thank you for sharing you with us. And then we are going to finish our service. We don't want to go more than a couple of weeks without having, the rest of the service. So we're going to do that, then have a short nosh session and get something to eat, stretch our legs. Then we will have a community-wide discussion as to whether or not we want to bring you here to give a full Sunday service, teach a class of your design, and do a meet and greet with us. So it'll be a whole weekend, basically. We should be able to have that information to you within a week. Okay. Right. We are going to tape shows my age. We're going to record the discussion and send it in an email to our congregation only, password protected. Then ask them to do the same survey discussion that we're going to have. We give them a week to do that. At the end of that week, we will be able to let you know whether the congregation has decided to invite you here on a personal visit. So within a week, by May the 5th, we should be able to let you know about that. And then we'll go forward from there.
All right.
Okay? Thank you so much for being with us.
Have a lovely day yourselves, dears. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, so we're going to continue with our regular service. If you want to just take a breath, give your body a little shake, shake what you're sitting on. So we prepare to show our gratitude for what we continue to receive. There are several ways to contribute to Unity of Bloomington. Checks or cash are always welcome, or you can use the text to give button on the screen or the donate button on the website. As the offering bags are passed, you may want to bless the bags and their contents. If you're new to us, please fill out one of the blue visitor forms in the pocket of the chair in front of you with your first impressions. We'd love to hear about it. Prayer request forms are also available in the pocket. Both of these forms may be dropped into the offering bag as it is passed. Thank you, greeters. So now please join me in speaking our abundance affirmation together. I am an abundant being in an abundant universe. I am not dependent on people or situations for my good. God is the source of my supply. I always have something to give, and I consistently give it. I expect the best, I give my best, and I now attract the best in every experience.
Everything I need is always given to me. Everything I need to let me know that I'm free. Everything I need is always given to me. Everything I need to let me know that I'm free. There's nothing always given to me. Everything I need to let me know that I'm free. Everything I need is always given to me. Everything I need to let me know that I'm free. There's nothing standing in my way. There's nothing standing in my way.
All right. Will the greeters come forward? And please join me in speaking our offering blessing. Divine love, flowing through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, and I am grateful. Just a few announcements. Thank you, greeters. Thank you so much. There's a tub in the lobby marked MCUM Food Drive for your non-perishable donations to the Monroe County United Ministries Food Drive. This drive ends on Tuesday, April 30th, so please bring in your goods soon. QR codes, we're now using QR codes for several things. You'll find them in your bulletin, in the newsletter, and at various places around the building. Please use them to sign up for being a greeter, to donate through PayPal, or access the New to Unity portion of our website. And just a little plug for being a greeter. If you plan on coming in May, please consider being a greeter. It's fun and easy, and you just sign up with the QR code. If you need help with QR codes, let me know. I'm around. I have a hot off the press announcement here. Joining together in song for peace, justice, and liberation will happen in the Unity of Bloomington Chapel on Saturday, May 11th at 11 a.m. Angela Gabriel, Mackay St. Rain, and Phyllis Wycliffe will lead a gathering of like-minded and caring activists in joining forces and intention to sing about growing our consciousness of peace and justice. So if that sounds interesting to you, you could probably get more information from Phyllis or Mackay, and please plan to join us on Saturday, May 11th at 11 a.m. to show your soul in song. And now let's join together in our prayer for protection. Stand up if you'd like. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Let's join together for our peace song.